An excellent example of the Communist Party's use of violence to the people is its support of the Cambodian Khmer Rouge. After it captured political power in 1975, it unexpectedly murdered a quarter of Cambodia's population, including a majority of Chinese immigrants and descendants. China still blocks the international community from putting the Khmer Rouge on trial so as to cover up the CCP's notorious role in the genocide. No wonder people say, other political groups slaughter in order to conquer. The Communist Party conquers in order to slaughter. One of the theories the Communists employ is social Darwinism. In 1859, based on his observations, Charles Darwin proposed his theory to attempt to explain the origin of man. Due to the lack of evidence, his theory was unceasingly challenged and doubted in the scientific circles. The Communist Party, however, treats it as a scientific law and takes it absolutely. They even applied species competition to human society, maintaining that class struggle is the only driving force for societal development. Struggle, therefore, became the primary belief of the Communist Party, a tool in gaining political control and means to survive. Mao's famous words plainly reveal the logic of survival of the fittest. With 800 million people, he said, how can it work without struggle? Another one of Mao's claims that contains similar survival logic is that the Cultural Revolution should be conducted every 7 or 8 years. The repetitive use of force is an important means for the CCP to maintain its rule in China. The goal of using force is to create terror. Every struggle and movement served as an exercise in terror, so that the Chinese people trembled in their hearts, submitted to the terror, and gradually became enslaved under terror. This crazy sentence, shouted by Wang Chaoshi, a character in a movie about the tragic time of the Cultural Revolution, has been like a haunting ghost, echoing in the minds of the Chinese people. Today, in the 21st century, terrorism has become the main enemy of the civilized and free world. The CCP's exercise of violent terrorism, thanks to the apparatus of the state, has been larger in scale, much longer lasting, and its results more devastating. In Chinese society today, the saying, "taking the class struggle as the key link," is no longer mentioned. But in the business world, any and all means are resorted to in competition. The party has used China's so-called special characteristics and the right to subsistence as excuses to deny basic human rights. Isn't this a mutation of the struggle philosophy of survival of the fittest? The level of civilization can be measured by the degree to which violence is used in a regime. By resorting to the use of violence, the communist regimes clearly represent a huge step backward in human civilization. Unfortunately, the Communist Party has been seen as progressive by those who believe that violence is an essential and inevitable means to societal advancement. This acceptance of violence has to be viewed as an unrivaled and skillful employment of deception and lies by the Communist Party. This is another trait inherited by the CCP. On July 4, 1947, the CCP official newspaper, Xinhua Daily, published this editorial, quote, "Since a young age, we have thought of the United States as a lovable country. We believe this is partly due to the fact that the United States has never occupied China, nor has it launched any attacks on China. More fundamentally, the Chinese people hold good impressions of the United States based on the democratic and open-minded character of its people." Unquote. At that time, the CCP, besieged in Yan'an, was trying hard to win favorable impressions from America and to receive military aid. A mere 3 years later, the CCP sent soldiers to fight American troops in North Korea and painted the Americans as the most evil imperialists in the world. To this day, this CCP editorial and other similar publications are still banned in mainland China. The reason is that the CCP does not want its deception and lies to be exposed. In 1957, the CCP called on the intellectuals to offer their opinions to help rectify the Communist Party. On June 8th, the People's Daily published an editorial. It was called, "Why Is This?" Taking this as a turning point, the rectification movement suddenly transformed into an anti-rightist campaign. When some criticized the persecution as a conspiracy, or a plot in the dark, Mao claimed publicly, "This is not a plot in the dark, but a stratagem in the open." This is a part of the speech by Jiang Qing, the first vice director of the Central Leading Committee for the Great Cultural Revolution, recorded in the initial period of the Great Cultural Revolution. Soon, the president of China, Liu Shaoqi, was taken as a rebel and a traitor from within and a scab. That's what he was called. And forever he was expelled from the party. Remarkably, 10 years later, Liu Shaoqi was announced at the rehabilitation as a great proletarian revolutionist, great communist soldier, and great Marxist-Leninist. Details of his persecution is still a forbidden area of research. Since coming to power, the CCP has employed similar strategies in every single movement. From the 3 antis and 5 antis to the Cultural Revolution, and from the Tiananmen Square massacre to the persecution of Falun Gong. Deception and lies go hand in hand with violence. Deception and lies serve to justify and mask the rule by violence. When violence becomes too weak to sustain control, the CCP resorts to deception and lies.
因此到中国来工作、旅游、开会等等也是安全的。
Chinese intellectuals have had the greatest faith in history since ancient times. China enjoys the longest and most complete history in the world, and the Chinese people have used history to assess current reality and even to achieve personal spiritual improvement. To make history serve the current regime, the CCP has made a practice of altering and concealing historical truth. Concealing, altering, and rewriting history, whether it be in the divisions of time, in the assessment of historical figures, or in the accounts of historical events. Such historical alterations have continued for more than 50 years since 1949. And all efforts to restore historical truth have been ruthlessly blocked and eliminated by the CCP. Every person from China who goes overseas feels shocked when seeing how the international society explains the historical events of the Northern Expedition, the Sino-Japanese War, the Korean War, and others.